Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kira, aka Words by Kira, and in this episode, I have the lovely Ronika on. Ronika is going to be sharing her story about resilience, overcoming challenges, and creating the path in the life that she wants. Just so you all know, this is going to be talking about some serious content. So if you are very sensitive or you think you might be triggered, this might not be the best episode for you. I do interviews with different people and I make videos about self improvement and self love. So if you're into content like that, hit that bottom right subscribe button and definitely stay tuned. You don't want to miss this episode. So, Ronika and I actually met on a self care for Black women Facebook group. I was just scrolling on Facebook and I saw her share her testimony, and I was so encouraged by it. So, Ronika, if you wouldn't mind, could you please share today some of your story with us?
No problem, and I do appreciate you reaching out to me and letting the world know my story, my testimony. Um, let's see. I am 34. I'm originally from South Central Los Angeles, California. Moved to Texas when I think around 8 or 9 years old. Been there ever since. Just recently moved to Orlando, Florida. Part of my story is, as most women do go through, and I don't know the statistics, but I know it's high. Everybody knows it's high. We go through abusive relationships. We deal with issues coming outside of that abusive relationship, but also it starts at a younger age for me. Um, it started with me being sexually assaulted by a family member at a younger age. And then when I got to high school, it was a high school football player uh, who I got sexually assaulted by as well. I From then on, I think like I changed. I think because I was afraid to speak out. Especially within our culture, we tend to not want to speak about stuff like this, or it's like pushback. Like the parents doesn't really notice things, or if they do, like they'll just say one thing and then just keep it moving. I was To go back to the start, I was in an abusive relationship for 5 years. I ended up getting in trouble while I was in that abusive relationship. It was a first degree felony, but that happened after I got out of high school. I think the hard part about it for me was I was dealing with it, like dealing with the abusive relationship on my own. And then while I was in that abusive relationship is when I came to uh, realization that I was sexually assaulted,
Mm.
because I put it in the back of my head, like I blocked it out. And um, like a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but when you're in an abusive relationship, you're going to have to do things that you're not willing to do. So when things like that happens, it triggers, and it's like, oh my gosh, like this is happening to me again. And then you think about it like, well, what do you mean again? And then you go back and it's like, okay, this happened to me. How do
Mhm.
I deal with it? Where is it coming from? What triggered it? And I think what triggered it for me was because of the things that were happening in the abusive relationship. So I did keep it in for I for a while, and then when I came out on the Facebook page, that was actually one of the first times that I've said anything about it, and that's because I feel like I can touch people, with my story, and be like, you don't have to be afraid or speak up. I deal with being bipolar, depressed, anxiety, and I also have high blood pressure, diabetes, and it's just like I think all of that has to deal with the stress levels.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go through traumatic things, like of course you're gonna stress, but it's like when you go through traumatic events, you hold grudges, and I don't know how different families are, or their sayings, but it's like you hold a grudge, you're gonna get sick, and I'm like, okay, I'm holding all these grudges because I'm getting sick. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is not what this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Like I'm 34 years old and I'm going through all of this, and it's just like, wow, like you can't do this, because you're slowly killing yourself. It's kind of like suicide.
Mm-hmm.
With having the felony, I remember I was 18. Um, the prosecutor told me basically I wouldn't be anything in life, especially coming from West Texas. There's a lot of racism out there, So the first time that I was arrested was for impeding traffic, and I'm like, I'm stopping for. I don't want to be rude, but I'm stopping for a crackhead, and you gonna pull me over and take me to jail. I'm like, okay, so that's the first run-in with the laws in
Wow.
West Texas, and I'm like, okay, I know that that was racially, you
Yeah.
know. So I sat in jail for a night, and then I was like, okay, I'm done. But a few years later is when the felony happened, and that prosecutor, when he told me that I would never basically amount to nothing. I can't do anything with corporate, any type of corporate or anything like that. Like, yeah, that shoots you down, and especially coming from an older white man
Yeah.
to a younger black woman, and it's just like you're gonna believe it because you don't know nothing else,
Yeah.
And then he's scaring the mess out of you. So I kind of took it like hard the first few years, but I ended up being on probation. So I completed my probation. They gave me 5 years. And throughout those 5 years, the first 2 years, I was like, I kept telling my mom, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I give up. I was like, just let me violate so I can go to prison. And I'm like,
Mm.
because it was that hard. you know, they gave me 400 hours of community service that I had to do, and 24 of the hours, to which I think is ridiculous. You have to do it at a graveyard,
That's so
and I'm like,
funny.
yeah. So it's just like it's ridiculous, but through God's grace, prayer, faith, and a loving, praying, spiritual family
Yeah.
that stood behind me. I was that child that was like, oh, you ain't finna talk to me no kind of way. The major attitude, the one who always had to stand out, stick out. You know, what the problem child, put it that way. But I think it was part of because I was holding so much in. Coming from my parents ended up divorcing when I was in the seventh grade. I was there for that, so that was also kind of traumatic because it was like what else? So like, you at a young age, and it's just like you go through so much, but you don't know how to talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
especially when your parents are divorced. It's like, well, who do I talk to now?
Yeah.
You know, So it's like holding a whole bunch of stuff in. So with being in that abusive relationship, like a lot of things came to light, but I still ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
But within that abusive relationship, I was still praying, asking God to guide me, you know, because I knew it was wrong. And some people were just like, oh, it's easy to get out of abusive relationship. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
not. It's really not. Like, please tell me and show me. Let me call this person who who it was so easy for to get up out of and then not come out of it with mental and spiritually issues, because it's like whenever you go through things like that, you question yourself and then you question God.
Yeah.
And I know you're not supposed to, and I don't know that much about the Bible, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I do, but I always fall upon this one scripture, and it's the Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, where it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding, and in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And that's what I have been going to since that abusive relationship, and that abusive relationship started in 05, and we're in 20 now. So I've been going, with that for about 15 years, and it's kept me, even though I struggled throughout the nights and stuff like that. That's what I go to, with the prosecutor telling me that I wouldn't be able to make it in life. I'm sorry. I would say when I completed my probation in 2011, I made it. I ended up also graduating with my associates in 2014. But I knew that those words that the prosecutor told me held in with me for a reason. It kept me as strong as I am today. And to prove a point that no matter what you go through in life, you can't always jump to what man says, because it's not what man says, it's what God says at the end of the day. And when I was on probation, I started out small with working at, like Jack in the Box and stuff like that. That's because I had in my head that I ain't gonna be able to work for no corporate, or no high-end company. So while I was on probation, I worked at numerous places, and then one place was a Dallas community college, and I was there throughout the complete time that I was graduating. So I was there for 4 years. So I was working for the school for 4 years. So that gave me hope too, because when you work at communities or schools or colleges, upper level schools, you're able to network a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my things. Like, I like to network,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I love people. So I had this one professor. She was like, "You're gonna make it." She was like, "You can't let, your past or what you're going through deter you." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right, you're right." To which I knew deep down inside, but it's always nice to have somebody see that in you and express it to you, to keep it going. So I ended up getting my associates. And then once I got my associates, I got a job with the oil company in West Texas, back in West Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, look at God, because with the position that I had, it's like they frown upon felonies.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just taking another leap of faith, of, well, let me just see if I apply here, because I have my associates now. Maybe that'll help me out. And sure enough, it did. So I was like, okay, God, I see you. I see you. You showing out.
Yes.
So from then on, that's where everything started, like, looking up for me, because I was like, okay, I got my foot in the door, big time company that the prosecutor said that I wasn't going to be able to do. So I started that, and then I started doing my bachelor's, to which I ended up getting my bachelor's in 2018. But that was a hard struggle too, working over 120 hours, trying to study full time. I ended up getting another oil job but that was like after I got my bachelor's. I moved back to Dallas because I'm like, ain't no need for me to be here in West Texas. And I've always scorned West Texas because of me getting in trouble, having a felony. So it's just like, I don't want to be here because it's nothing for us, So it's just like, and then whenever I did get in trouble, like when something happened, like it lasted probably like a week or two. Like they would pop my picture up on the news, and I'm like, dang, So it's just like, really? And I remember my uncle coming to me. He's like, "You on the news again?" I'm like, "Look, bruh." I'm like, I don't want to hear that, But that just like left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want to be known for that. It's like, that's not me.
Yeah.
So I've always like held something against the city that, I got prosecuted in.
Why would they put your picture on the news again?
Whenever something, I got in trouble for aggravated robbery. Right? So that includes like stealing and stuff. So whenever someone happened to do something like steal, because when someone was stealing and they got caught, then they put it, on the news. But during that time, like, I guess it was popular of stealing stuff, So every time that someone would get caught, they'll not only flash their pictures, but they flashed mine and the other person. So it's just like, and then what killed me was they would only do it to the black people.
I was just about to ask that. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, they only to the black people. Yeah, so I was like, okay, and I feel like I embarrassed my family. I know that I embarrassed my family, and I felt bad. And I've never like really expressed it, like, like I'm sorry, But back then I was like, I was 18. I was puppy love, because it happened while I was in an abusive relationship. I thought I was in love, but it was puppy love, And then I'm like, ugh, this is just ridiculous, So yeah, that's why they would put the picture up. I ended up getting my bachelor's from Wiley College out in Marshall, Texas, HBCU. Go Wildcats! And then I would say 2 to 3 weeks before graduation with my bachelor's, it was a professor who took me on under her wing when I first got to Wiley. And she's an attorney, but she's also in sociology. And I was telling her, like, yeah, I've always wanted to do law, but once again, the prosecutor told me, I can't, I wouldn't be able to do stuff. And then one of the advisors at the school also told me, oh no, you can't go into law because you have a felony, or else I would have taken the courses that I needed to take before where I'm at now. Instead, she took me to a whole nother degree, and I'm like, this ain't really what I want, but I learned to love it because of the professor. So we were talking, and I told her that I've always wanted to do law. She was like, you can do law, but you'll just have to go through more hoops and stuff like that because of your background. She was like, as long as you're honest about it, she was like, you shouldn't have a problem. So I started doing my research, and I'm seeing all these people who are in prison that are lawyers, and and I'm like, why would these folks try to,
tell you?
But yeah, and I'm like, I was like, these mofos is crazy. I'm like, I'm finna get mine, And she started leading me in the right direction. So, and her name is Dr. Datis. We still talk, and she checks on me. That's my journey to the becoming to get into law. Studying for the LSAT. I moved out to Orlando on a leap of faith to get into FAMU, Florida A&M University. So I'm claiming it. I know I will.
Yes, you will.
get into law school. Take the test next month, and I'm so excited. I'm like, I don't like this LSAT stuff, but I'm gonna do it, you know. And regardless of my background, where I come from, what happened to me, things of that nature, that's all in the past. Like, you're not finna keep stressing me. Like, I'm already going through stuff, and I'm not finna let this continue to work things in my life that's negative. Because it's like I'm such a positive person. I do have my moments,
As we
you
all
know.
do.
But it's just like so much in my life like has impacted me, and I'm just like, I can't keep quiet, you know, because I'm getting older. I have nieces, nephews, you know, and it's just like I want something for myself, but I want them to see that because of what I went through, they don't have to go through. You know, you can learn, speak up, talk, ask questions. And that's what we fail to do, is ask questions. Because we always feel like, oh, well, this question is, you know, I wonder if it's going to be dumb, or they don't know the answer, or, you know, feel some type of way type question. And it's just like, why do we have to be so limited on what we speak out about? We shouldn't have to. I would say now that I'm learning to deal with things, especially with the being sexually assaulted, being bipolar, and all that stuff, um, it's overwhelming. But I know that I can do it, and keeping the faith and being able to go to that Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, and doing meditation, exercising, you know, stress relief type thing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that story. That journey is so important, especially when you were mentioning the negative people who were saying, you know, you can't do this. And just, I'm sure everyone watching, we've all had times where people are trying to deter us from our dreams or making us feel like we have to just accept small things, or, you know, we have to just be the person we were in the past, when that's not true at all. You have grown,
Right.
evolved, healed, and that's why you're on the path you are on. So my question for you, Ronika, is how do you think you became so resilient and you decided to not listen to those haters and do your own thing? What helped you be so resilient?
To be honest, it would be the prayers coming from my mom and my aunts. Um, I could feel it, you know, because one day my mom was just like, I just had to give up on you, you know, but you hate to hear that. But when a strong woman of faith and her sisters are there for you, but you see it as if they're trying to be negative, but they're really not. So that helped me a lot, and then coming to terms with with it whenever she told me that. So my faith started building that day that she told me that,
Mm,
is when, you know, she had to give up on me. Because when that happens, she's leaving it in God's hands.
yes.
So if she can do it, I know that I can do it. So that's how. And just being tired of the negative things. Like, I wanted something so positive in my life. Like, I knew deep down inside, so I wanted to bring it out. And that's how, is when she told me that, and I'm like, okay, that's when my faith started building even more.
That's beautiful. And I also wanted to ask you too. So you talked about mental health and how you were diagnosed with bipolar and how you were able, the memories came back from the trauma in the past. And that is something I've heard multiple times. That actually happened to me as well.
Hmm.
It happened to me when I was young. So I just was curious, have you ever like gone into therapy? Like, how did you figure all these things out? especially with the diagnosis?
I got the diagnosis of everything: bipolar, depression, anxiety, high blood pressure, diabetes, within weeks' time of each other. And that was at the, and I'd say it's been about a year now. And that happened in how I found out. I ended up having to take medical leave from work because I was just going crazy within the oil field. Like I said, I was working for an oil company, a major oil company, and I was working over 125 hours. So with that, you get less sleep. So things were just like moving in my head, and I'm like, I don't feel right. Like something is not right. So I was like, let me just, go to the doctor, see what's going on. And I ended up going to the doctor for the diabetes and the high blood pressure. And it's in the same place as the therapist. And I seen the therapist, and I just asked her one question, and she was like, just make an appointment. I was like, okay. So with whatever triggered while I was working made me go to therapy, and that's how I got diagnosed with all of that. And I was just, at first I was like, nah, I ain't bipolar. Nah, I'm not depressed. Nah, I don't have no anxiety. Like, you tripping. Like, you trying to speak that into my life. But as I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe I am. And I started going through things, started thinking about stuff. And I was like, okay, let me just calm down. I was like, I'm feeling the same way that I felt a while ago. But I never, addressed the issue, because I thought it was just, oh, I'm just away from my family when I was back at school, living away from my family. And I was like, nah, I'm not depressed, But when I started having more sessions with the therapist, I was like, okay, I'm coming to terms with this. Like, something is happening, So it was just like, when I was at work, I was like, okay, something is not right. Like, we know when things are not right, but we hate to, admit it, and especially when you do go to therapy, like, oh, they gonna think I'm crazy, because I'm going to therapy. But in actuality, it helps, because you have to talk about it. And again, within our culture, going to therapy is frowned upon. They want to say, talk to God. Okay, I've been talking to God ever since I got into that abusive relationship. Yes. I still need to talk to someone, and let it out and get their feedback as well. Yes. And it's nothing wrong with that. And ever since then, like, I push therapy for everybody. Doesn't matter what you're going through, because it's helping me in order to help other people as well. It might take a little bit longer. At first, I was like, no, I'm not this, I'm not that. You're not going to speak it. But I came to terms with it. And I'm like, okay, they're helping me with learning how to go through the depression modes. Because, like, I can fall quick and fast into depression, And with the bipolar, it's just like, I'm here and there. Like, and it's like, okay, they want you on all this medication, but I'm not doing no medication. My medication is meditation, affirmations, exercising, and just clearing my mind. But I still attend therapy. I don't think I'm gonna stop.
Yeah. I see a therapist too. I think it's really important. And just like what you said, sometimes we go through things and we bury it from ourselves. We bury it from the people around us because we're ashamed, or, we don't know what to do. We feel like, oh, no one will understand, or whatever the case is. And how can you heal something if you just keep covering it up and you don't put that medicine, whatever that medicine is, whether it is meditating, like you're saying, or praying, or just talking to a therapist, you're not going to really fully be able to heal it and let it finally, like, I don't want to say not go away, but just heal it. You just keep on kind of avoiding it and piling things on top, and then it could come out in all these other ways that are not beneficial for you. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you, Ro. Like, yeah, therapy is so important. It's so important.
It is. It makes you think a lot, and I'm all with coming to terms on yourself for yourself, especially if you're going through a whole bunch of things like with the sexual assault, and I know it's like a touchy subject for everybody. To be honest, like I just recently told my parents, so I've been holding that in since I was younger, you know, um, and the therapy helped with that as well, and because my therapist was like, "Wait, what?" She was like, "You ain't tell." I was like, "Well, it's we going through the motions, because you got to learn how to trust the therapist too."
Mm-hmm.
So once you learn to trust the therapist, and then you start talking, then you'll feel better about yourself, and that's what I've been doing. And with the posting my story, my testimony on Facebook, helped me a lot too, especially with reading every other lady's, their testimonies on there, you know, so that helps as well. Also being in support groups,
Yes,
you know, so.
it really does help, because I think too, sometimes when you're going through things, you could think, no, not a lot of people can relate, or when you're going through a lot of pain, you could sometimes just have tunnel vision, and you're just trying to make it through the day. You're just trying
Mhm.
to survive and do the best you can. And when you're able to kind of step back and trust yourself enough to share it with others, then like in your case, then wow, these other people come to you that can share that experience or can be uplifted by that experience, and then it can be like a communal healing. So I'm so glad
Right.
we're in that group. We would have never met each other.
Right. I'm so excited.
I have another question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So for people that have, for people that do have a record, maybe they have a felony on their record, and, they're really stressed and feeling like, oh, I'm not going to be able to go to school, or I'm not going to be able to get a good job. What advice would you give to those individuals that are seeing your story? I'm sure they're so encouraged by how you were able to take control of your life. What would you tell them?
I would tell them, don't give up. If you feel as if your back is against the world, reach out to somebody. And if you can't trust the people around you, or you feel like you can't talk to anybody around you, go look on Facebook for support groups, and then start from there. Um, but always keep the faith. Keep praying. Find a Bible verse that speaks to you. Um, you can go to the bookstore. Even Google how you're feeling with your back against the wall, and just Google back against the wall Bible verses, and stick with that. Write it down, notate it. My brother, he's always told me to write things down. I'm like, no, I'm not writing it down. But I found out that when you write things down, it sticks with you.
Yeah.
And then if you keep writing it down, you're gonna learn it. So yeah, I'm big on Bible verses and keeping the faith, and then also like surround yourself with what you want in life. Don't surround yourself around things that happened in the past, or the negativity that that you're aware of. Always focus on what you want. Stay focused on what you want, and it's always going to be deters in your life, but you have to learn how to maneuver, like duck and dodge. But keep a positive circle, you know, that positive circle can lead to positive things. And some people are like, well, my circle is already small. Hey, that's fine. Sometimes that's even better to have a smaller circle, because you don't know everybody's energy. I'm also big in energy. What you give out to the universe is what you get back. You see what I'm saying? So just keep that up and find like encouraging like music, TV shows. Like I try not to deal with all that, reality stuff, because that's just a facade, and then that also feeds into our souls, and people don't understand that. It's just like, that you do know that's feeding into your soul. Oh no, it's not. Yeah, it is. Like, I'm on the outside looking in. So I'm telling you, but I ain't okay. So try to find positive things to watch. Something that's gonna feed you with positive energy. Yeah, reality shows that's how they be getting us, especially once again within our culture, because it seems like we're attracted to drama, and that drama leads to other things, because you think it's okay, like with the drugs, the all types of stuff, guns and stuff like that. No, it's not okay. Like you feeding that into your soul, so you think it's okay, and then you wonder why you end up where you at.
Woo, that's a word.
So it's just like, nah, kill. I'm good with the reality shows. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I do be watching reality shows, because I be like, yeah, I want to see something, But other than that, positive stuff, or either documentaries, Law and Order. Woo, child, I love me some Law and Order.
You're a lawyer, girl. That's why you a lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Law and Order. So what made you choose law? Why do you want to get into the law field?
Good question. I've always been into law and politics since I was younger. With my great aunt, like she was into that, and once again, Law and Order. Like we would always watch Law and Order. Like the original Law and Order, and then Law and Order SVU, CI. And then she was doing politics too. So from there, but I think when I got in trouble, and I was like, this is what I want to do, but they're telling me that I can't do it. So that really drove a passion for me, because I know what it's like, having a background and going to jail, being on probation, seeing things that I shouldn't be seeing or doing. It's like, okay, I have the experience, not only book smart, but streetwise.
Yes.
So why not go into law? Because I know what's real and what's not real, So, and it's like, because I've been there, I feel like I can represent those who are actually going through it, and not just doing it just for the money or the fame, And it's just like, because my lawyer, which was, of course, we couldn't afford one back then, I was like, you not gonna try to fight for me? Like the first offer, whenever you get in trouble, and you're getting ready, you don't go to trial or anything like that, they're gonna offer you a plea deal. The plea deal, the first plea deal, you never go with, ever, 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 ever go with. And they were talking about 10 years probation, and I was like, look, this is my first offense.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, we ain't doing it. No, I was like, if we need to go to trial, we can go to trial. He was like, oh. He's like, well, I had to tell you. I'm like, well, why are you having an attitude? I should be having an attitude, sir.
Your life. Why is he having attitude?
Yeah. And it's because he wasn't getting paid. Well, he got paid $500, but that was included in my probation fees. But it's just like, public defenders, they're so overwhelmed. So they're trying to get through cases to the public defender cases quicker than the paid ones. So it's like, either if I'm even if I'm getting paid or I'm defending somebody who doesn't have money, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm not going to sit here and just rush you off because I can't pay you. And then I really don't know what you're going through either. So I'm just, I'm just going with the flow type lawyer. No, that's not me, you know. So that's why one of the reasons why I chose to go into law is because I want to help those who have been through what I've been through, and I'm not just doing, like I said, I'm doing it for the money, but I know, at least I know that they're going to get an honest lawyer,
Yes.
So, but I've also been thinking about becoming a prosecutor. And when I told people that, they were like, oh, no, you trying to lock us up. I'm like, say, bruh, calm down. Like, again, we need those honest, faithful, willing to fight type prosecutors.
Yes.
And not just the ones who are just doing it for politics. I mean, yeah, we gonna come through some hard cases, but again, I'd rather be one of those prosecutors who's going to be faithful, honest, loyal, and be like, this is the real. Like, I'm not finna do this, I'm not finna do that just for politics. This is people's lives.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And yeah, we do. I see it as an epidemic with our kings being locked up, for little things, and sometimes it's even on their first offense that they get um, these harsh sentences. And I feel like prosecutors are also overwhelmed, really, really overwhelmed. But if they take the time out, then some of us wouldn't be locked up.
Right. And it's that discrimination.
So that's that. Like, I have a older uncle out in California. He's been in there since '79. He was supposed to been out over 20 years ago, but he's still in there. But through the grace of God, he's getting ready to get out through the child law. So yeah, and that's one of the reasons why too. And then I have a brother that's in there, and I pray to God that once he gets out this time, that he stays out.
Yes. So too.
And it's that those type of things also encourage me, because it's hard when it's your family, but then again, it's just like, dang, again, but they need motivation. So while they need motivation, you're their motivation as well, because you're riding for them and you're speaking out for them.
Yes.
So that's another reason why.
This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Ronika. Like, I literally so inspired by you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you and the things that that you're doing, being able to reach out to people and help share their story as well. That's an inspiration, and being motivated, also giving your story as well. So we piggyback off of each other, girl.
Yeah.
Good vibes.
Yes, that's good vibes. Thank you so much. Everyone who's watching, thank you so much for watching. And we're going to say bye now. So, bye.
Bye.
This was